What's going on, guys? Welcome back to NolanTCG, and we are back here today for another deck profile, and this time, it's for Pendulum. So, it's Performer Pal / Pendulum Magician list, because we have Monkey Board at 1. And, yeah, really wanted to mess around with Monkey Board at 1. So, ultimately, we've gone for a bit of a mix of both. You can say, I guess, this is a budget Pendulum list. There are a few cards in here that are expensive, but we're not playing stuff like Pot of Prosperity and things like that. I do own those cards, but I've just opted to not play them in here to make it a bit more pure. Keep it down as close as you can get to the 40 card limit. It is just a 40 card list. As well as giving you much more freedom to not feel guilty about toolboxing your extra deck. But as always, before we do get started on this one, as always, please remember to drop down below and hit that subscribe button if you are new here, because we are always happy to have new people to the channel. And let's get on into this deck profile. Before we do get started on this one, though, it is brought to you, of course, by yourplaymat.com, who got us our beautiful NolanTCG extra deck sleeves. These are available on yourplaymat.com, as well as you can get custom sleeves and custom playmats, so whatever you need for the current format. There is an affiliate link in the description down below that does get you a little bit of a discount on your order. Also, enter the code NOLAN10YP for 10% off your order. Also kicks back a little bit to the channel, so everything will be very much appreciated. If you're shopping there, you're getting custom sleeves, custom playmats down. Make sure to enter our code at checkout. But let's get on into this deck profile. Okay, so starting us off for the profile, we do have our Performer Pal package. So starting us off, we do have our one copy of Monkey Board. We're not playing the full Monkey Board, Guitar, or Lizard Draw engine. We're not playing all that kind of stuff. We are just playing a relatively straightforward Performer Pal package. So we've got the Monkey Board for the search. Then we've got the Skullcrabat Joker for the search. We've got a playset of that coming through. Then we have our Pensork, so we're going 3 Pensork. And then next off, this card you can cut down if you want to cut it down. At anything, I would recommend playing 2 of it, maybe 1, if you do want to fit in a couple more other things, but the other one is the last card from our Performer Pal package, our Celestial Magician. I just like having Celestial Magician in rotation because it nets you that search every turn, so I like to have access to it to be able to follow up and really try and push to end the game on the turn 3. But overall, the lineup is pretty standard. We have our Joker for the normal summon search. We have the Monkey Board gets us more searches. And then we have our Pensorks, get our pops off. And we can start toolboxing things out. And then we go into our Pendulum Magician line. It does, of course, start with our Sorcerers. So we've got our one copy of Astrograph. We aren't playing the Stargazer Magician to summon off the Astrograph, which you can honestly consider. In this modern build, now that we do have Beyond the Pendulum, you do want to get those monsters turboed out as quickly as possible. So that is something you can look at. We are, however, playing the 3 copies of Chronograph with the 1 copy of Time Gazer, so that package does still function essentially as a free Pendulum monster on board. Later on in the list as well, you will see we are playing some other stuff. Then we get into our more stock standard Magician line. That does include our 3 copies of Double Iris Magician. Pretty standard at this point now to just kind of maximize on these guys at 3. Following up with 3 copies of Harmonizing Magician. Of course, gets you the Synchro plays off and everything like that. Can also get Xyz plays off. 3 copies of Wisdom Eye Magician, because it toolboxes out your magicians into your scales. And then 2 copies of Oath Dragon. I like to just have the one that I can summon off the Harmonizing if I need to, and then one to go off the Wisdom Eye with. And then lastly, we have just a one-off. It's 1 copy of Purple Poison Magician. I've opted to not play the other one of the Pen Magicians, the one's not terrible. That is something you can consider, I just opted to not play it. And then we have our 2 copies of Curtain Raiser, just as a free extender to get us through to Beyond the Pendulum. After that now we do get into our non-Pendulum Magicians. We're just playing the 2 copies of Tuning Magician. It's good for the Hulk play, it gets you free extension when you've got the 2 in the scales, so you may as well just play it. It does also weirdly help you facilitate getting to Beyond the Pendulum in some situations where you can kind of get off. Yeah, you put in your 2 scales, summon this, and then you can get your normal summon and then combo from there. And then 1 copy of Artifact Scythe. This is a Scythe lock deck, so we are of course playing the 1 copy of Scythe. Then we have our Spell and Trap line. So Generic Searcher toolboxes out pretty much everything in the deck. It's 1 copy of 3 copies of Duelist Alliance. Something that can search, which then facilitates you to get a lot more stuff, is our 3 copies of Pendulum Call. Then we have our 1 copy of Star Pendulum Graph and 1 copy of Time Pendulum Graph, just for the generic searches and disruptions that they do accommodate. Okay, and next off we have the extra deck, and this is a fairly useful extra deck. Everything in here you can turbo out into, which is the reason why I don't like playing Prosperity in my Pendulum builds. It's just the case that you can kind of throw everything out there, so you may as well, I guess, keep everything there and not bin everything off that you might come up later. In games 2 and 3, by all means, feel free to bin stuff off because you know what your matchup is at that point. But in game 1, I don't know if it's the best. But we do start off, of course, with our new card, the 1 copy of Beyond the Pendulum. You can play 2 of this if you want to play 2 of it. 3 of it's completely unnecessary. Just needs to do the free search. You have the 2 downward scales. Good card. Who would have thought? You give Pendulum a card that searches, and it also gives you 2 downward pointing arrows. It's just good. It's what the deck needs. Sometimes it can not be great. Other times it can be really great. In the times it's not great, you just make one of the other Link 2s. But we do have a Link 1, of course, coming through after this. It is our 1 copy of Artemis. It does come up where it can just kind of facilitate things going into grave or going back to your extra deck. And you can just move things around. Then we have our Link 2. So we've got 1 copy of Dark the Dark Charmer. 1 copy of Crystron Halka Fibrax. Very good card. And then our 1 copy of Dagda. Typically in this deck now, you want to go into a Halka Fibrax with a Dagda underneath it. That does help you to facilitate the Scythe Lock because, of course, we are playing a special card in our Synchro line. But the rounding out our links, we do have our 1 copy of Artemis and our 1 copy of Access Code. This is the most expensive card of the deck. I'm not playing Appaloosa. By all means, switch Access Code for Appaloosa if you want to go that route. It's just here as like a game ender, but you do already put out a lot of damage, so it's not 100% necessary. So if you are going for like a full budget list, feel free to cut this. I'd probably recommend switching it for an Appaloosa if you're going to switch it for anything. Then we go into our Xyz line after that, so just a bunch of rank 4s. We've got our Time Star, nets us those free searches and protection. 1 copy of Tornado Dragon is another thing that you can use to pop the Scythe. 1 copy of Baguska because our Fusion deck branded can't play through it. And 1 copy of Dweller because it can come up in the format from time. It does shut down a lot of the rogue decks completely. It can also just be a weird thing that turns off a lot of things that Despia do. So do keep that in mind. It is something that is relatively free against that deck. And then we do get into our Synchro lines after that. We do have the 1 TG Wonder Magician. We're summoning this off the Halka Fibrax, then at the pop of the Scythe, which is the reason why it's here. 1 copy of Shooting Riser Dragon so that we can send the Token Collector, summon it back against pretty much all the decks to play tokens at the moment. We are still in a relatively token-heavy format, especially with Sword Soul coming back, so it is something that is relevant, is definitely hanging out my side deck. 1 copy of Borreload Savage after that, just a free negation you can make in the deck relatively easily. And 1 copy of Baron de Fleur. You net the free pop, you net the negation. Again, this card is expensive, so I understand if you don't want to play it. If you're cutting it, again, I would definitely just say just put an Appaloosa in here. It does say negate, so it does relatively do the same thing. Or you can kind of experiment a little bit, try and tweak things, and maybe you can figure out a way to have this deck end on the big High King Calamity, because you can get the quick synchro off. You can maybe play a Formula Synchron, maybe something like that. You can go full Mad Scientist and try that out. But that does wrap us up here for the deck profile for this one. So as always, if you do have any things you would recommend or change, do make sure to comment that down below. And as always, I've been Ben from NolanTCG, and have a good afternoon, everybody.